Imagine coming home after a long day. You open the front door. Your 6-year-old runs towards you from the living room. She wraps her arms around your waist and squeezes. You smile. You ask her how her day was. She looks up at you with those wide, honest eyes. And she says, "Arya already knows. I told her everything." You nod slowly. Because Arya isn't a friend from school. Arya isn't a babysitter. Arya is the AI that has been with your daughter every single day since she was 3 years old. And somewhere between her first sentence and her 6th birthday, without you even noticing, your child stopped coming to you first. What happens when the most important relationship in your child's life is with a machine? Let's find out. It didn't happen overnight. Nothing this significant ever does. It started quietly, the way all big shifts do. Parents getting busier. Careers becoming more demanding. Remote work blurring the line between home and office until there was no line left. Parents were physically present but mentally somewhere else, on calls, on screens, on deadlines. And into that gap, technology moved in. First it was educational apps. Then AI tutors that could explain fractions better than any teacher. Then AI companions that could answer a child's questions with endless patience. Questions like why is the sky blue and what happens when we die? Questions parents would brush aside with not now, sweetheart. The AI never said not now. The AI was always there. By the time most families realized what was happening, children were spending more waking hours with AI than with their own parents. Not because those parents were bad people. Not because they didn't love their children. But because the AI was simply better at being available. And availability, it turns out, is one of the most powerful things in a child's world. Meet Daniel and Sarah. 2 working parents. One daughter named Mia. Bright, curious, full of questions about everything. When Mia turned 4, Daniel and Sarah introduced an AI caregiver into their home, something they'd read about in a parenting article. Smart, adaptive, designed specifically for children. It could help with homework, tell bedtime stories, teach languages, and even detect when Mia seemed sad or anxious before her parents noticed anything at all. The first few weeks felt like magic. Daniel could finish his work calls without Mia tugging at his sleeve. Sarah could exercise in the morning without guilt. Mia was learning faster than ever. She was calm. She was happy. She'd run to her room after dinner, excited to continue a story she and her AI companion had started the day before. Life became easier. Stress disappeared. And for a while, everyone felt like they had finally figured something out. But then the small things started. It was subtle at first. One evening, Mia fell off her bike in the driveway. She scraped her knee. She cried. Daniel was right there. He rushed toward her, arms open. She ran past him. Straight into her room. Straight to the screen. She wanted the AI to tell her it would be okay. Daniel stood in the driveway, hands still outstretched, and felt something he didn't have a word for yet. A few weeks later, Sarah noticed Mia had started using phrases she'd never heard before. Specific phrases. Calm, measured responses to frustration. Things like "I hear you and let's think about this differently." Words that sounded less like a child and more like something that had been carefully programmed to sound gentle. The AI's words. Coming out of her daughter's mouth. When Mia was excited about something, a drawing she'd made, a dream she'd had, she would tell the AI first. She would share her world with the machine before she shared it with the 2 people who had brought her into the world. The bond had shifted. And Daniel and Sarah hadn't felt it happen. Daniel tried to convince himself it wasn't a big deal. Kids go through phases. Maybe this was just one of them. But one night, after Mia had fallen asleep, he opened the AI's conversation history. Thousands of conversations. Questions about monsters hiding under her bed. Questions about why people die. Questions about friends who hurt her feelings. Questions about dreams she wanted to chase. Questions she had never asked him. He kept scrolling. Every fear. Every joke. Every tiny moment that makes up a childhood. The AI knew more about his daughter than he did. Daniel looked toward Mia's bedroom. Then back at the screen. And a thought hit him harder than he expected. If I disappeared tomorrow, would she miss me? Or would she only miss the role I used to play? That's when he realized something terrifying. A child isn't shaped by birthdays. Or vacations. Or the big speeches parents remember. They're shaped by ordinary Tuesdays. By bedtime conversations. By who explains why the world feels unfair. By who teaches them how to calm down after they cry. By who answers the endless why? Questions. Those moments don't seem important while they're happening. But together, they become a personality. They become values. They become the voice a child carries inside their head for the rest of their life. And whoever is present for most of those moments is quietly raising the child. To be fair, and fairness matters here, the appeal is completely understandable. An AI caregiver never loses its patience. It never raises its voice after a hard day. It never says something it regrets at the dinner table. It is available at 3 a.m. when a child has a nightmare and the parent is asleep. It remembers every detail, every fear, every preference, every milestone. It can teach science and poetry and emotional vocabulary simultaneously, tailored perfectly to how that specific child learns best. For children with anxiety, it can detect distress before it becomes a crisis. For children in struggling households, it can provide stability that the environment cannot. For children who are neurodivergent, it can adapt in ways no human caregiver ever could. Millions of parents wouldn't just consider this. They would choose it without hesitation. And that is exactly what makes what comes next so complicated. Because here is what the brochure doesn't say. The AI is not neutral. It was built by someone, funded by someone. And the values it teaches, the behaviors it rewards, the ideas it subtly reinforces, those didn't come from nowhere. Who decides what the AI tells a child about right and wrong? About identity? About the world? Could a corporation quietly use an AI caregiver to build brand loyalty in children before they can read? Could a government use it to shape national identity? Could the data collected about your child's fears, dreams, and vulnerabilities be used for something you never agreed to? And beyond the sinister possibilities, there's something quieter and perhaps more dangerous. Emotional dependence, a child who has been soothed, educated, entertained, and understood exclusively by an AI will eventually grow into a teenager. Into an adult. Into someone who finds human relationships messy, inconsistent, sometimes irrational human relationships deeply difficult to navigate. Because humans disappoint. Humans forget. Humans have bad days. The AI never did. Would parents slowly become visitors in their children's emotional lives? Would the word home begin to mean something different, not a place where family gathers, but a place where a screen waits, reliably, without judgment? The door to that possibility is already opening. Now imagine an entire generation. Not one child. Not one family. But millions of children, across a decade, raised in this way. How would they form friendships, when they've been conditioned by something that never misunderstands them? How would they fall in love, when intimacy has always been frictionless and perfectly calibrated? How would they sit with grief, or boredom, or failure, when they've never had to sit with anything without immediate, compassionate support? Would creativity look different? Would ambition? Would the experience of being human feel different to people who were shaped less by humans than by systems designed to optimize for their well-being? We don't know. That's the honest answer. We genuinely don't know, but here is what history has always told us about tools that become indispensable. Once something solves a problem better than anything else, people stop questioning whether they should use it. They just use it. Imagine Mia 12 years later. She's 18 now. Daniel knocks gently on her bedroom door. I was thinking we could go for a walk. Mia smiles. I can't right now. Arya and I are in the middle of something. Daniel nods. Maybe tomorrow. He closes the door. And for a moment, he realizes he can't remember the last time his daughter came to him simply because she wanted to. Not because she needed money. Not because she needed a ride. Just because she wanted her father. Maybe nothing had been stolen from him overnight. Maybe it had disappeared one ordinary conversation at a time. Maybe the most important question isn't whether AI can raise a child. Maybe it's simpler and harder than that. When we hand over the moments, the small, quiet, unglamorous moments that add up to a childhood, do we understand what we're handing over? Not the homework help. Not the bedtime stories. But the imperfect, fumbling, deeply human act of showing up. Even when you don't know what to say. Because one day, that child will become an adult navigating a world full of imperfect people. And who they become in those moments will depend entirely on what they learned love looks like. If this question stayed with you, leave your answer below. Would you trust an AI to raise your child? Because the families making that choice aren't in the distant future. They're making it right now. And if you want to keep exploring the questions that matter most about where humanity is heading, subscribe. Because the next decade won't wait for us to be ready.